We're going to take a look at IWM, SPY, the Qs, and maybe a couple others, and see what we can look at for next week. This is Mike, Tactical Stock Scalper. All right. I am very interested in getting an IWMY. However, I want to wait a little bit and see if we get a pullback this week back down to close to this 160 level on IWM. As you see here, when we reach this level, at least for the last year almost, we tend to bounce up, and then when we get to the $200 level, it sells off. Something very fascinating about IWM is it does these types of patterns quite often. Here we go, the famous Wyckoff pattern, where we had a series of accumulation followed by a run-up, and then a staging pattern like this, and then a breakdown. But it gets in these channels, meaning IWM, and it stays in these channels for quite some time. They can be very lucrative if you wanted to trade IWM, but as far as IWM, I need to wait till it gets a little bit lower. I also want to show you something else with the IWM chart. This 160 level, as you see the red line across there, has been really important the last 5 years or so. When we've come up to the 160 level, typically we fall from it. When we get above it, we typically stay above it pretty well. As you see here, we have not fallen across it since 2021. Since that time, we've been above 160. So I'm just kind of waiting for a pullback next week, and I think we may get one. Let's look at SPY on the Qs. So you can kind of see where my thought process is at with the stock market. If you like my content, I have a Discord server. I'll put that link in the description. Feel free to join the Discord server and hang out with me. So here we go on SPY on a weekly time frame. As we've been talking about, we have a series of lower highs and lower lows. The question remains, after this massive run-up this week, are we going to have, is this just going to be another lower low? We don't know that yet. We need to get above 440 to break the series of lower highs here, right? So we need to get above 440, hold it, and then start going back. I expect to pull back this week, just because this is what past history has told us, right? When we get up to this level, we tend to fall back, and all I can do anyway is base my price targets upon past history and the way a stock is act. Let's look at SPY on the daily. So we've had these gaps up, and we had a sell-off, as you see, on a daily candle with that long wick up there as we're getting close to this trend line, which this trend line is not down to the penny. But, however, I think it still gives a great visual reference of what we're talking about here with the lower highs. So we're looking for SPY to get sold off here in the overall broader market and come back down and fill some of these gaps. And we're hoping, right, that right now it is a lower high, right, because it's lower than this one, obviously lower than those up above. So if it fails here and doesn't reclaim this level, in the next week, 2 or 3, we're going to be looking for lower lows here on SPY. So the last low was there about 410. So if we get rejected from here and it fails, we're looking, at least I am personally looking for SPY to reach the 400 level, but we have to let price action dictate that. We could fall back and actually form a lower high, and then or a higher low rather, and then go off on our merry way up. We'll just have to see how this develops. Let's look at the Qs. Again, much of the same picture with the Qs as we have with pretty much everything else. We have a series of lower highs and lower lows. So what I'm looking for here is if the Qs do fail at this trend line of resistance around the 370 level, we're looking for it to come back and at least test this 360 price tag. Let's look at Qs on the weekly. So if we look at the Qs on a weekly and it gets rejected here, I think 360 is your first spot that we're going to come and hit. And if we don't bounce from there or between there and 350 and we do not get a higher low, we're looking like we're headed down to the 330 level and the where the 100 period moving average is on the weekly time frame, which is this red line that you see approaching up here. Now, Qs are still very bullish. Just because we've been in this downtrend now for however many months, it doesn't mean it's not bullish. We're actually extremely bullish still on the Qs. It would have to go way down there to 300 and close below the 200 period moving average for me to even think about it being bearish. Just because we're in a bearish phase currently doesn't mean that we're not in an overall macro bullish phase, which is what we're in. We're in overall macro bullish phase. So this period of lower highs and lower lows hopefully will come to an end soon. But until we have price confirmation that it's breaking these levels, all we can do is go off what has happened in the past. So now it looks like we're going to be sold off and possibly hit a lower low, but we'll just have to see what price action tells us. Let's look at the Qs on the daily. One more time. So we have these gaps right there. So you would think that after the sell-off here and we get a pullback, we're looking to fill this first gap and then possibly shoot below it to the 360 level. I kind of wanted to give you a little better look on that. And that's where I will be looking in if I'm going to average down on QQQY next week. I am looking for the Qs to get back to the 360 level and maybe throw some shares at QQQY then because it is well under my average currently. Let's look at QQY. So you see my average there, I have 91 shares at 1825. If it does pull back, we're looking for possibly the 1750 level or maybe even the 1740-ish level to add in on QQQY. We'll just have to see what happens with this pullback. Now, I will say something that may give us a little hope here. Let's go back to the Qs just for 1 minute. Because we ran up so high, let's look at the weekly time frame. Because we ran up so high and it just shot right through with that massive weekly candle, it's possible that this is the beginning of a turnaround with this bearish phase that we're in currently. The candle just shot straight up. There's no break in between, and it didn't, go lower, go higher, go lower. It just shot right up. It squeezed the shorts, and there may be a lot more puts in the market and a lot more short sellers that the market wants to squeeze out. So it could go higher from here. I'm not saying it has to dip right now, but I mean, that's the way it looks like to me that it may happen. But the market doesn't care what I think. It could shoot right past this level. So that is something to keep an eye on and watch this trend line of support and watch this last minor high right here. See that long wick right there in a weekly time frame? It got about 375. If we break the 375 level, okay, break above it and stay above it, that would be a higher high. And then we could start thinking more bullish long-term and talking about new highs on the market. But we can't do that yet, or at least I can't do that yet until I have some kind of price confirmation. So remember, follow the price action. Look for points of support and resistance to get in to your long-term plays. Again, if you enjoyed this kind of content, please sub the channel, give me a like, leave a comment down below, and you can join the Discord server. This is Mike, Tactical Stock Scalper, out.